pros and cons? It's just a really quick question. Maybe take like 5 minutes. And as long as everyone's thinking in that regard, that a solution is not the only solution, then at least you have justification, you know, to move forward with it. So if there are certain limitations to the number of users that you can, satisfy with just with Firebase, then maybe that becomes the inflection point. It's like, okay, well, after we get 100 users, now we're going to have a little bit of trouble with this. We want to do some custom, profiling. We want to do some custom, login management. So that might be harder to do. So that's the reason why we're going to go. Uh, so not saying you shouldn't do it. All I'm asking is like, what's the trade-off?
No, I get your point. Yeah, I think we should just stick. I mean, we haven't changed it yet. We just have
Mm-hmm.
everybody install their MySQL in their machines because from the developers that we have, none of them was familiar with MySQL.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just something that everybody heard, but nobody got to work with it. So
Mm-hmm.
we got it. We left it. It's still connected to the Firebase because I mean, until we get to, as you said, until we get to the part where there are going to be a lot of users and everything that we cannot manage it through Firebase. And yeah, I guess that's the time when we should switch to a different database.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for the hint.
Did you look at the cost structure for Firebase?
No, really, I didn't take a deeper.
Sometimes, yeah, so sometimes the cost is going to be the driving factor for why you might do like a free and open source version of a backend system. So I don't know what the Firebase pricing model is, but if there's a free to a certain extent, and then next tier is paid, and next tier is paid, that sometimes that should affect your decision. Maybe you could go longer with free Microsoft MySQL. Uh, so is that a limiting factor in Firebase? Can you accept 10,000 users with the Firebase backend?
Hold on, I'm trying this. I think I can see those on the policy or something. Downward.
And then
Usage and billing. I think I am on the right page. So we're using the free version right now.
mhm.
Yeah, it doesn't give me for yeah, it doesn't give me information about the rest because upgrade. Let me just check the upgrade.
Yeah,
Paid.
so if you look at their regular website, it says they have a free plan and then the pay as you go.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, I found the one pay as you go on actually the Firebase page. So
Yeah, and you can only have one database per project with the free plan.
yeah, they have up to 200K per month. So I don't know.
Hmm. Yeah, so it kind of begs the question is like how MVP can you keep it to prove the point, with a free Firebase? Like it's going to take a little bit of ingenuity to figure out like how do I keep the cost down, right? Because at the end of the day, maybe the paid version is where you want to go, but that's maybe it's later. or maybe you want to move and pivot to a different, backend system. But right now, you guys don't know enough about what your customers' needs are, and you don't know enough about what your users, connectivity and, cadence is going to be. So it's hard to project other than, just kind of guessing, right? Wild guesses. So, if you acquire 100 companies, and each of those companies has 10 people, well, that's different from you acquire 10 companies and each company has 1,000 people, right? This is a totally different structure, right? If you have large companies with lots of users, you're gonna have to have like an enclave of data, for each of those companies, which looks different than you have all individuals, then, just kind of all individual profiles, right? So that might affect, where you go, right? So without knowing kind of what it's going to look like in that environment of the future, you just kind of scale as you go, right? Just keep it really simple.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I know like as engineers, we try to build and design like a something we can be proud of, right? That's our pride, right? You got to drop your pride, because at the end of the day, customer doesn't pay for your pride. Customer pays for only what they need, only when they need it, right? So you have to be mindful of the end user, right? So always like the kind of the meter that you want to, evaluate your decisions is, okay, does this affect the user's experience? So if it affects the user's experience, or if it affects your ability to get funding, right? Because investors are really the key thing here, right? They're your power user. So whatever you project for an investor and what you think an investor would want, those are the only things you should work on. Like everything else, it's okay. It's okay to amass some technical debt. It's okay to say like I wish I could work on that, but I can't. And that comes back to the prioritization scheme that you're going to come up with. So, the the Agile 101, like the quick Agile 101 is, you have your list of requirements, you have them on a board somewhere. It doesn't matter where it is. It's some kind of list, some kind of card, it's some kind of sticky notes, like wherever it is, doesn't matter as long as you take the sum of all of those things and then you're prioritizing them, right? So you're always working on number one. You're always working on the highest priority. Yeah. So if that's your backlog, what system is this? ClickUp. Okay. Yeah. So in here, you have it structured as, backlog. That's good. Parking lot. You don't want to waste any time. So if you have an idea, just dump it in the backlog, the parking lot. Then ready for grooming, right? So this is where you want to test and tune and identify like what's the priority. And then in progress, ready for testing. Yeah. So all of these kind of gates are great. Um, you just got to make sure the ready for grooming is really what is my priority, like, and as a product owner, right? So Sean, who's the product owner? Hmm, right, yeah, so those HR people would be kind of your priority customers. Maybe they would be, like stakeholders in the system, and then you have, in an agile team, you would have a product owner, somebody who owns the product. So it can't be a customer. It's got to be, well, Yeah, it should be somebody in the organization. So like, let's say you would be the product owner, and then you have a scrum master, maybe you would be the scrum master, that would be somebody who's facilitating the agile development process. So scrum master's only job really is to make sure that things are moving. All the cards are moving to the right, and the cards are moving to the right at the right pace, with the right priority. So you just quickly go over each of these things, like, okay, you got a delete button, right? Um, uh, Typically, if we're doing a planning meeting, right? So agile, like whether it's 2 weeks or 3 weeks, you meet every some number of days, right? So let's say you meet every 2 weeks, and you're going to go over and set the objectives for the next 2 weeks, right? So you go into it planning the next 2 weeks of all requirements. Once you and the team have decided, hey, for the next 2 weeks, this is what we're going to push hard on, then you push really hard, right? And then you kind of protect the schedule of what's being released, which requires you to do a little bit more planning ahead, so that the developers can move like quickly, right? Move forward quickly with the focus. What's really hard to do is like to remain agile, but then also remain focused. It's kind of on the two ends of the spectrum. If you're constantly being agile and chasing, then it's hard to develop and focus on something to completion, right? And if you're only focused, then it's hard to be agile because like I need to finish this thing, right? So this is where the balance becomes based on the environment, based on your customers and your priorities and whatever crazy stuff's going on. I mean, let's be real. Let's say you set the 2 weeks, and then a week into it, like a customer goes, hey, I want this thing and I'm willing to invest. Well, okay, like maybe you just got to hijack the sprint and, throw it away and say, look, we're going to realign, right? But it's a deliberate realignment, right? And it's because of a certain reason. There's a threshold that you get past. Yeah, that's fine. I've done that many times, right? There's some things you lose by doing that, but it's not an issue. Like again, yeah, again, you're not looking for the ideal, right? You're bootstrapping. Just, right now, like your only goal is fake it till you make it, right? That's like your that's your goal, right? So, all things like you may wear all hats. I mean, you might be the product owner, scrum master, and developer, right? And whatever you're gonna do those things. That's okay. When you have a small team, everybody's got to do everything, right? There's no this person and this person and this person, right? But then at the same time, you got to be realistic because you have to be able to plan. You have to be able to set goals and milestones, right? So if the investor comes and asks you, hey, what are you going to be ready for MVP, right? And you go, yeah, I don't know. We'll find out. It's like they might not like that, right? So, mhm, sure. There's no problem with that. All I'm saying is, if you have, I don't know, if you have a tractor, you're going to move that fast. If you have a race car, you're going to move that fast, right? Whatever you have to understand the velocity that you can run at, right? And so once you understand that velocity, then you can start to make commitments. Does it make sense? Yeah. Mhm.
No, I I'm sorry. I'm just a little bit sick. No, I really
Mhm.
appreciate Swap all the advices, and everything makes so much sense.
Mhm.
It's just not trying to justify myself or something. The idea is we didn't have no code until a while, so and
Hmm.
plus everybody's not like really putting so much time on it
Sure.
because everybody's volunteering.
Sure.
So no matter what, it still takes a little bit longer, and it is kind of harder than when you have a budget and you have everybody on a payroll, like you
Hmm.
cannot go in the same way you can go to somebody that you're paying for it and be like, hey, I need this done,
Right.
because you might get some answer, you know what, I'm helping you out and you're coming to me this way, bye. And that's something that we cannot afford.
Right. Right. Yeah. 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 So that's what I mean by understanding your capacity and velocity. So whatever it is, you have to come up with a set of commitments, right? Doesn't matter what it is, right? So for instance, you said like if everybody's on payroll, then the commitment is every day, 8 hours a week, you know? Or, I mean, every day, 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week. That's just your commitment. Or maybe it's 80 hours a week, right? That's the commitment. Then you have a junior 8 hours, a senior 80 hours, principal 80 hours. Now oh, okay, well, with this, like, this is maybe what I can do. And then I can make a commitment, then I can make a commitment. On the other side, if it's, volunteer based, then let's say, hey, what can you guys commit to? Like, we know that there's a vision here, there's an approach, there's an opportunity, and we have to cross the finish line, right? So with that, what can you guys commit to, right? Can you guys commit to whatever, 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days a week, or 1 hour, 10 hours, 20 hours, whatever it is. Let's set that commitment. That's part of the sprint planning. So every 2 weeks, you would identify, hey, what's my commitment? So when I do, I've run many, many projects in this fashion. So when we do the sprint planning, sometimes we're at the end of the year and you got Thanksgiving and Christmas. So, you got people that are like, hey, I'm going to be gone for like 4 weeks. Okay, well, now my capacity, my velocity has dropped. So now I'm down here. No different from a volunteer group or a paid group. At the end of the day, it all works the same. There's a certain number of hours, right? So how do you get to that understanding and a commitment, right? So what we did was we would track, we would track months of these kind of planning cycles, right? And so in the agile development methodology, each card you had on that board, each card has a number of points. Point, yeah, it's the story points. The points don't matter, they don't mean anything. But it's funny how when a group of people come together and they constantly just guess at a number, there becomes a very clear understanding of what's a one and what's a five and what's a 10. You know, yeah. Hmm. Yeah. So the exercise of going through those things is important whether you have a big team or a little team, whether you have, paid staff or whether you have volunteer staff, right? Because only then can you really start to quantify how much do I have to go. If I have 10 cards on my next 2 weeks, right? And those 10 cards are going to take 25 points. It's arbitrary, but maybe that turns into 100 hours. Well, if I don't have 100 hours, then obviously I'm not going to make that in the next 2 weeks, right? So you're going to have to like manage the schedule, that way a little bit and manage expectations a little bit. So as a founder, right, Sean, right? So what you would end up doing is maybe once you understand that cadence and that schedule, right, you can project out in your mind, like, okay, maybe it'll take like 3 months to get to this point. Maybe it'll take like a year to get to this point. So when you talk to folks, it's like, hey, well, in order for us to get here, we're going to do that naturally through the folks that we have, right? But if we had investment, then we can get there sooner, right? If we had investment, we can get there sooner. We've already projected out the things that we need to do to satisfy you, right? To satisfy and bring more investors, whatever, partners, customers. So we have that understood, well understood, so then to me, it's like, okay, well, yeah, I want to seed that. I want to accelerate that, right?
Yep.
So yeah, I'm talking more in generalities about the methodology. Specifically, if you have questions about the cards and how to decompose them and what the direction for like the technical things should be, we can go over that as well. You don't worry about it. You don't need any of that. No, you just yeah. You learn by observing, right? So, let's project it this way, right? So if you need to learn, if somebody else on your team needs to learn, let me know and I can help you run one of those sessions, you know, and yeah, but I'm only telling you this as an outsider looking in, right? Most advice that you're going to get is going to be from outsider looking in, right? Only you are inside. Only you know what the team is, what the structure is, what the balance is, what you're able to push and pull, right? Only you know that. So you need to make sure that when you get advice from people, like, this, what is this, strategics management, I would, I would be very careful about everyone you're considering, right? Um, because there's many types of people, There's people you can trust and there's people you can't trust, and it's hard to figure out like what's what, when yeah, I need more information. So, how do you know them? How'd you connect with them? Like, like I need more information to evaluate, and make a recommendation. I can certainly look at the website, but that's, okay. I have a company all hands in a couple hours, so I may have to bolt at some point, but right now I have like another 30 minutes. How'd you meet them? Hmm. Your friend's aunt. Okay. So, mm, mm, okay. How big is their company? Mm, 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 okay.
Um, yeah, yeah, that's what I was trying to. I'm gonna let you guys go ahead and talk. So I'm just gonna head out. Thank you so much, Mr. Earl, for helping us out. I appreciate
Yeah. Yeah. Anytime.
Thank you.
Hey, be confident. You guys are doing a great job,
Thank you.
Yeah,
Bye.
No, you need to be heavily involved. You know, it's you. I would not. Um, a lot of people have a fear of micromanaging. You need to be in all things, in all ways. You know, it's too small of a team for you to be concerned about that. Yeah, because what's going to happen is that fear of micromanaging is going to cause you to step back to give them autonomy, but you're giving autonomy to people that don't really have not proved it to get it. You're just giving it to them, and that's really a personal fear. That's a personal self-doubt. So if you have an idea, you need to go with it, then you need to be involved in it. You need to help bring it to fruition. As if when I was running, project teams, it's like, I mean, sometimes I was all in all like different stories, and that's the purpose of doing the morning scrum. In the morning, you just want to find out what's going on, like what are the issues, right? And then those things are the things that you need to dive straight into. So you might spend all day like diving into those things that are issues identified at the scrum, because your job is to unblock things. Everyone else is going to go as far as they can until they hit a roadblock. And sometimes people will just throw their hands up. Sometimes people go into it. But how will you know? How will you know unless you're in that mix, unless you have that high degree of communication? And then what's the cost if they hit a roadblock and they get stuck for 4 days? Can you afford that? Not like monetarily, but opportunity cost. Can you afford that? But that's just my thoughts. Mhm. At the end of the day, all you need to do is help them do their job, right? So they have a card, they're the owner of the card, they're the responsible party for the card. You're just helping them move that card along, right? And you do everything you can, whether, you're cleaning up the desk around them or whether you're going to fetch the data. Yeah, so tell me more about the structure which you guys are thinking. Hmm. What's the cost of that? Hmm. Hmm. Mm. Okay. Yeah, I would be concerned about the cost and the entanglement, so if they're a stepping stone to something bigger, Now, let's say you execute something with them. Like, what does that look like? Because now you're talking about like the next investors and the next set of investors. If in a year or 2 years or 3 months you intend on getting other angel or other VC, what will they think about this, right? You don't want this to create a blocker, right? So, that would be my concern. Yep, yep. Do you have something ready to pilot? Mm, 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 mm. Yeah, so think about like what do you need from me, and what could you gain from me, and then what's that, yeah, what kind of structure would you want that to be or look like, right? So, and I mean, I'm not I'm not opposed to using it in my company. Um, where it's just, we are using and paying for an expensive system. So I have to create the room to use it, and I can create smaller pieces of room, throughout the company, but so that just takes some time to get that to work out. So it's more of an organizational, operational thing. So in the past, I could have just, done it and moved on with it. Now our company runs a little bit more sophisticated. It's not just me. I want to go do something and we go and do it. We have a leadership team. It's like 12 people strong. And, we talk about it and then we figure out like, is this the right thing for us to do here or there or this year or next year? So it's a little bit more involved now, right? Yeah. Hmm. Okay. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. So yeah, let's think about it this way. Then um, there's different there's different structures inside the company, right? So there's executive leadership, operational, and there's board, there's equity, there's all these different pieces. So you know you decide, where you want my help. I can help in any of those areas. Um, you just decide where you want my help, and most likely, like most startups, like you can't pay for it. So, the consequence would be some equity, but bearing in mind, you know, typically what happens is like you bring in some equity to the right people and they will help. It's enough to motivate them to make it successful. I mean, I want you to be successful no matter what. I mean, you don't have to give me any equity. I'll still help you as much as I can. I just can't materially help you because, that becomes a barrier. But if there is some more, involvement, um, and there's more, connection, equity or something else, then I can, materially help more, right? Because then it becomes, much like you're talking about with the other company. I mean, I told you, we are going to be incubating, and launching product, right? So, I would love to have, my own kind of, incubation farm, right? Um, and that's been on my mind for the last couple of years, right? So I don't know who Strategix is, but I'm confident that, we're much better at innovation and, at scale than they are. I don't even have to read their website. That's just because we know who we are, right? So we don't have a formal program, but it's yeah, 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 yeah. Maybe the first guinea pig is certainly, an opportunity, so whatever you're pitching to them, just if you already have something pitch viable, and ready, then yeah, um, we'll set up a meeting, we can, do the pitch with some of my guys and then we'll talk about it. Yep. And just to help you, but not help you, I'm not going to help you with my leaders. Like you're going to have to convince them, you know? Right. Exactly. Mhm. So I can help you, but when it comes to the guys that I bring, you're going to have to convince them. Um, Yep. So yeah, you figure it out. You figure it out and you figure out what you want me to do and what that means to you guys, right? Make sure that you own and retain enough to make the decisions you want to make in the future. I would love to be involved. I would love to help you make it successful. Um, I don't want to hamstring you either. Does that make sense? Okay. So find like an hour on my schedule and then consider that your pitch opportunity and then I'll bring a couple people. Okay. Yeah, schedule it now so that I can make sure that people can make it. Just pick a spot that works for you and then I'll try to bring my folks to that meeting. What are you looking for? Mm, hmm Yeah, expertise. We can figure out a schedule to apply our expertise. Connections, definitely. I mean, if we're going to be involved, then we're going to help make it successful. And so we'll help we'll help shop it around. We're probably not going to be your best sales people, but in terms of networking, we can certainly put in a good word and stuff like that, and then we can help you with your pitch. Funding is going to be hard for us, just being honest, because funding is kind of tight, and we're preparing for continuing resolution and things like that. So, if I had funding, that would certainly be part of a consideration. But funding is going to be probably the hardest one for us at the moment. So, and it's really because like we're growing, and as we're growing, like imagine like, you go from middle school to high school, you eat a lot more, right? So your mom's always going to the grocery store, like trying to get more food, constantly going to the grocery store. That's kind of the appetite that we're having right now. So as it's growing, it's like it's mhm, yeah. So it's going to be hard for us to provide the funding. So maybe, others can help you more with the funding side of things, because it's not like, if we decided to, help accelerate this thing, then it's not like we're going to be the only ones involved. I mean, you need to have other folks like joining the party, right? And for most other folks, like, joining the party might be different, right? You know, might be non-equity, might be some other, options. hmm Okay. Okay. Sounds good. All right, man. Bye.